Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Reduce and Reuse Innovations in Market-Based Solutions webinar as part of Keep America Beautiful's Transition to Zero Waste Community Series. My name is Jacqueline Grace. I'm the Chief Development Officer at Keep America Beautiful. On behalf of Keep America Beautiful and our 700 national affiliates, I would like to thank you for joining us today. Keep America Beautiful's mission is to inspire and educate people from all different backgrounds to take action every day to improve and beautify their community environment. As part of that work, this series is designed to convene discussions to accelerate the transition to zero waste within our cities, our towns, our rural communities. To date, we have heard from leaders overseeing municipalities, advisors at corporations, researchers in sustainability speak about how they have implemented zero waste practices to help move toward a sustainable future. Today's webinar is set up so that we will hear from innovators in the industry about how they have embraced new findings to create zero waste solutions. Before we begin, please use the question panel on the right-hand side of your screen to ask questions throughout the webinar. We will address questions at the end of the discussion. For now, please join me in welcoming our host, Brian Garofalow, Chief Marketing Officer at Igloo Products and Keep America Beautiful board member. Brian is joined by panelists Cheryl Zukowski, Director of Marketing at UNIFI Manufacturing, and Kira Rideaux, Economic Development Services Coordinator within the City of Austin. Brian?
Hey, Jacqueline. Thanks very much for having me, and hello, everybody out there. Just a little bit of housekeeping. We had a fourth guest as well, Kimberly Matsoukas from Vans. Unfortunately, we've got some technology issues. She wasn't able to join us today, so I'm going to fill in from a consumer goods perspective and help with some questions there. I'm very excited for the panel today, where we've got some really great perspective on the topic from consumer goods businesses like myself with Igloo Coolers, Cheryl with a B2B company, UNIFI Manufacturing, makers of the Reprieve fabric, and also Skyra with the City of Austin, who works with small businesses in her municipality and how the community is working there. Of course, I've got to take this opportunity. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't, to let everybody know we're in the last few days of April here. If you all log on to igloocoolers.com/eco, ECO, you'll actually be able to purchase a collection of products where 100% of the proceeds is being donated, 100% of the profits is being donated to Keep America Beautiful for the entire month of April. So log on and please support the organization. All right, Cheryl, we're actually going to start with you. The first question I want to throw your way is, as a supplier to consumer goods businesses, how are you attracting customers with your messaging of creating zero waste communities?
So we are, UNIFI Manufacturing is a global manufacturer of synthetic yarn. So that's polyester and nylon. And we operate, well, we are a US-based company, and we are publicly traded, and our headquarters is in Greensboro, North Carolina. We do have operations all over the world, in Central South America and in Asia and elsewhere. We have been in business since 1971, so we've been doing this for about 50 years. So we are very well known in the textile industry for any mill, any company who's making fabrics who wants to buy yarn from us. So we have had that brand recognition for UNIFI for a long time. In 2007, we launched our Reprieve brand, which is made from it's recycled synthetic yarn. So it's made from, our polyester is primarily recycled plastic bottles, and we have a vertically integrated plant and processing system in North Carolina itself. So we promote that heavily through social media. We have a wide sales force that's all over the world. So we talk to our mills and tell them about Reprieve. We talk to brands such as Igloo or Vans or other brands about our Reprieve products. And then we also talk to consumers through social media and through partnerships that we have with brands like Igloo, with brands like Vans, with companies like Target and some others who will talk about Reprieve on their websites and to tell their consumer base that they are using a sustainable fiber in their product. So it sounds a little complicated, but it's really not once you get the hang of our whole supply chain. So we make sure that we're doing advertising, we make sure that we're telling the Reprieve story, and that we are making good connections with partners who will also talk about what we do.
All right, well, let's skip ahead from B2B and talk about how you actually educate consumers. So I know a little bit of the cheat code since we do this together, but let's talk a little bit about how you have partnerships with brands and get your end message to the consumer to educate them on how they can help reduce their waste and recycle these products.
So our first step is to really educate on the process story, because it is really counterintuitive to think, and I always have a bottle with me when I talk to people, how something like this can turn into something like this, right? This is like a quarter zip, and have it be comfortable and moisture wicking and easy to wear and cool in the summer and hot and warm in the winter, because that's just not intuitive. So we tell our process story to our brand partners, and then a lot of times they'll want to tell that process story onto consumers for credibility, and then understanding like from a tangible perspective that the recycling that they put at their curbside actually goes somewhere and is used to make new products. So I think that credibility and that trust in the recycling process is really important, and that's why we tell that process story a lot. So we can show that. Well, I've got one of these. It's hard to do this over Zoom, but we break our bottles into flake, and then we melt it down into kind of a resin, and then we extrude it into the yarn or fiber that is then used to make products. So once we explain that and we partner with brands who then tell that story, it really helps because Reprieve is an ingredient brand, so it helps people to kind of say, aha, that's how they get that recycled bottle into that shirt, that pair of pants, that cooler, that bedspread, that pillow, those types of things. So I think that answers your question, but that's pretty much how we do it. Oh, we also offer, sorry, but wait, there's more. We also offer a variety of co-branded logos and things, so it's easy for our brand partners to tell that story. And we have a green bottle tag that's pretty iconic that we ship to our customers, that if you want to use that to show your consumer base that you're using the recycled Reprieve product within your product, you can co-brand with it that way as well. So we offer a variety of ways to bring that to life, and we try to tell the story ourselves as well. But we try to make it easy for our partners to talk about how they're being sustainable by using Reprieve.
Fantastic, thank you. And I can definitely tell the audience from firsthand knowledge. There's a fantastic group of assets that Reprieve and UNIFI offer to brands like ours for digital use, where you could see those in action on igloocoolers.com. Also at the point of purchase, I love the green bottle hang tag. It's very noticeable. You can see it on tons of products, and once you see one and you understand it, you can start spotting those at retail quite a bit. So thank you for the work you're doing.
Thanks.
All right. Skyra, over to you. I think being a leader in one of the most common forms of community, being the city, the municipality, what programs have you implemented for businesses in your community?
So that's a great question, Brian. So good afternoon to everyone. I'm so excited to be with you all today. So my role specifically with the City of Austin is a partnership between Austin Resource Recovery and our Economic Development Department. So in Austin Resource Recovery, I sit in the Strategic Initiatives division, and I work on the Circular Economy Program team. And then from the Economic Development side, I sit on the Global Business Expansion team. And that's important because it's a partnership that recognizes the importance of zero waste and circular economy, and also the economic development impact of that work. And so the City of Austin has implemented a few programs in partnership with our business community and both of our departments, specifically through the framework of circular economy and how it can be a foundation for building a more resilient economy, right? And so circular economy, I know, is a new term, so I wanted to just take a minute or so to kind of give a brief explanation of what circular economy is. So according to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, a circular economy is a framework for an economy that is restorative and regenerative by design. So it looks beyond like our current take, make, waste, extractive industrial model. And it's really based on three principles, right? Designing out waste and pollution, keeping products and materials in use, and then regenerating our natural systems, right? So for example, typically in a linear system, what we kind of all know of right now is raw materials are extracted from the earth. They're designed into a product, so they're assembled, they're manufactured, they become a product that's then produced, it's distributed, and then it's consumed by the end user, which is usually consumers, right? It's purchased at some point, and then it's disposed, so it ends up in a landfill. That's our linear system. Ideally, a circular model would use recycled or repaired or remanufactured materials to design and produce a product that can be collected for reuse. So similar to what Cheryl was just telling us about, where the bottle becomes something wearable, right? So it's collected for reuse, repair, or remanufacturing, or it regenerates natural systems. For example, food waste, right? Organic food waste becoming compost or soil for our farmers, or an old mattress being disassembled and becoming new dog beds that can be purchased, or a plastic byproduct, right, becoming 3D printed furniture. So you take all of those things and it restarts that circular system, right? We're reusing the materials as opposed to extracting raw materials from our planet. And of course, it doesn't just address the business component, but it places people and planet right at the center of the work we're doing through our natural and economic system. So anyway, I wanted to just kind of give set a level set of what circular economy means. So my specific program of work mainly focuses on a couple of components. First of all, for our business community, we have our business retention and expansion program, which allows us to proactively connect with existing circular economy focused businesses to understand and respond to local business needs. And our circular economy businesses, right, it looks a little different than our traditional business models. And so we're working with them to create and leverage policy to create or identify end markets for our recycled or reused materials so that they can continue to circulate locally or regionally, whether that's through policy or stakeholder connections. And then, of course, part of my work is business engagements, right? So we do one-on-one business consultations with our local businesses to make sure that we're connecting with them, that they have the resources that they need to continue to thrive and support our economy from a local standpoint. And of course, you know, we want to work towards industry and sector development within our circular economy framework. And so having those one-on-one sessions gives us insight into what's happening on a local level. Are there end markets that are missing? Do we need to connect our businesses to other businesses so they can support one another, et cetera, et cetera. Another part of the work that I do, we have a program that we started a couple years ago called Material Spotlight. And so what we do with our Material Spotlight program is we identify a local material that's ending up in our landfill, and we figure out a way to make that material most circular, to feed it back into a business process. For the past couple of months, we've been focusing on food. Of course, I'm sure some of you have heard of Ice Storm Uri within Texas. Our food supply chains were disrupted, right? So this is a perfect opportunity for our Material Spotlight program, which focuses on our current ecosystem of food from cradle to cradle, which means from farm to fertilizer, right? So it includes growing, distribution, logistics, processing, consumption, disposal, and end of life. And what we're looking to identify is where do we have the biggest influence to create a more circular and less wasteful ecosystem, and also support food sovereignty, equity, access, and resiliency goals while we're building up our business community and creating new businesses and more circular businesses in the process. And just a couple more kind of ways that we support our business community. We have our circular meetups, which is a monthly networking series where our circular business community can come together and network. From those circular meetups, we've had businesses who met each other for the first time and are now collaborating and forming new business opportunities from those meetings. And then a couple of incentives, right? Because, you know, we can support our businesses with programs, but sometimes they need incentives and resources for us to support, particularly when we're talking about circular economy businesses. So the city of Austin offers a zero waste rebate. And so our zero waste rebate, right, is an incentive for businesses to expand and improve their diversion program, and also help to reduce the amount of trash that's sent to landfills, right? And we offer eligible companies, you know, they can earn up to a certain amount of money in rebates per year as they're applying for that program. And then we have our Chapter 380 program, which is really our local incentive program, where we can provide incentive opportunities for our local businesses in the form of, we have our targeted hiring program, which is equity focused, which provides rebates and to our businesses if they're hiring in targeted areas, whether it's people experiencing homelessness, those who come from low income or Black or Indigenous or refugee communities, those who are differently abled, and things of that nature, right? So we provide an incentive to our business community for that as well. And so there are a number of ways that we are incorporating programs to support businesses that are doing the kind of work that Cheryl and UNIFI is doing as well within the city of Austin and the Austin MSA.
Skyra, I can't even tell you how inspired I am now after hearing all this from you. So thank you for the work you're doing.
Absolutely.
I think one of the things that's important for the audience out there is how can we make this work? So when I think about Austin, it's definitely a community I think of as more progressive and more willing to tackle big issues like this first. And there's a handful of those communities in the U.S., but it's certainly not all of them. So can you share what are some of the best programs you think you've put in place, but not just the best, but which are the ones that maybe have the lowest bar to get over? So where should everybody start, and what are the hallmarks that we should be looking at in other communities when we can replicate something like you've been doing in Austin?
That is a great question, Brian. And I'm going to try to answer, and I don't know how easy or hard these are because we've been doing it for a little bit of a while here in the city of Austin, but I want to give you 3 or 4, hallmarks here that I think could apply to other communities. One thing that we've done with the city of Austin is we've implemented a program called Challenge Studio. And so Challenge Studio is a partnership with our economic development small business program. And it's a 9-month intensive program that forms and supports diverse teams of entrepreneurs in solving a local strategic challenge from one of City of Austin's, like our strategic priority areas, which includes circular economy, right? And so what happens is individuals who have a very specific talent or skill set can apply to be an entrepreneur in this program. And they work with others who've applied to co-create viable job-creating businesses that address a specific problem. And our founding teams received $10,000 of seed funding, legal technical assistance. And prior to COVID, right, we also offered physical co-working space. And so what it's really designed to do is help entrepreneurs better understand our circular economy challenges here, identify innovative solutions, build and test prototypes, and then start and grow viable businesses. So it's really kind of an incubator process where we're saying, hey, this is a challenge we're seeing in the city of Austin. Who in the community can help us kind of solve that? And here's the resources that we're going to provide as a city to help address those needs and help build up more entrepreneurs. So Challenge Studio is one hallmark program that's here in the city of Austin. Another one that we have is called our reverse pitch competition. So reverse pitch is currently in its 6th year, and it focuses on turning raw materials that are slated to become waste into the foundation of a business venture. So our local organizations and businesses come and they pitch material that's mostly ending up in the landfill to entrepreneurs who then compete to create a business idea to repurpose one or more of those materials, right? So it's a little different than Challenge Studio that's really solving a community problem. Reverse pitch is really saying, hey, I'm a business, I have this product or this material that's ending up in the landfill that I can give to another business to create a new business from it, right? And so, reverse pitch is really designed for the business to pitch an idea and then entrepreneurs to take that material and create it into a new business opportunity. And then of course we have one of the things that I think is extremely important when you're talking about hallmark programs is making sure that you have really great support from your public servants and your elected leaders. And not just having the support and the buy-in from that leadership, right, but codifying it. How do we do that? And so City of Austin has done that in 2 ways. one of the things that we implemented was called our Zero Waste Master Plan. It was adopted by City Council in 2011, and it was really a bold step towards making Austin the most livable city in the country. And it's more than 300 pages, right? But the plan laid out the number of environmental sustainability goals for the city over the next 3 decades. The primary objective was zero waste, right? So the plan included a handful of ambitious benchmarks in pursuit of our zero waste vision. With, of course, the ultimate target of moving beyond zero waste systems to an economy based on maximizing the value of goods. So moving from zero waste into what we're talking about, which is circular economy, right? And we want to reduce the impact of our ecological footprint on the environment. So the council adopted that in 2011. We were set to update that plan in 2020. Of course, COVID happened. So we're in the process of updating it now. And of course, we'll be publishing that really soon. But we really codified that not only were we going to say that this was important to us, but we're gonna make sure that it was a part of our policy here at the City of Austin. And so, of course, we're going to update that goal, that plan. And then one of the other ways that we codified this work is through our Universal Recycling Ordinance. And so our Universal Recycling Ordinance was approved by the Austin City Council in 2010. And really it was intended to increase the life of local landfills and reduce harmful environmental impacts and boost our economic development. So it requires, the URO requires property owners to ensure that residents and tenants and customers and employees have convenient access to recycling, right? So specifically, the ordinance requires property owners to ensure a couple of things. One is that they have recycling for 5 materials at a minimum. There's sufficient collection, like container collection capacity for multifamily or commercial properties. The informational signage for how to recycle and where things go is in multiple languages, right? And there's regular education, whether it's for tenants, if you're in an apartment complex, or employees, if you're a business. And so that's how our Universal Recycling Ordinance kind of came into play and is supporting the work that we're doing. And so those are kind of the hallmarks of how we've become the city that's recognized for sustainability and zero waste and circular economy. One of the last things though, Brian, that I kind of wanted to mention that I think is extremely important as we're having this conversation is economic recovery and how this fits in. How does zero waste and circular economy and sustainability fit in to economic recovery, right? So, you know, even with our ongoing commitment and efforts through the policies, right, we are all aware that these are not normal times, okay? We've had multiple crises that we faced over the past year, and it's kind of required us to challenge how, as Ellen MacArthur Foundation put it, we build back better. Right? And how do we build back better using equity and our sustainable development goals as a foundation and a circular economy kind of as a framework? And so from an equity lens, the City of Austin is taking an integrated and inclusive approach to our economic recovery strategy, right? We're building in climate action and equity measures into economic activity to secure the well-being of our people. And, you know, with the growing impact of the climate breakdown, our global health pandemic, and the economic crisis, right? It's placing a lot of stress on our cities, particularly, you know, across the country. And we wanted to make sure that as we seek to emerge from those crises, right, that we had a critical opportunity to lead in making transformations needed to create societies and economies that are far more socially just and ecologically safe. We wanted to make sure we could do both. And so, in other words, right, we aim to thrive by building well-being and resiliency, not only into our city, but into the wider world. So Skyra, how did y'all do that, right? What does that mean? We asked the question, how can the needs of communities be better served by circular economy models? And how can we build our city to be a home to a thriving people in a thriving place whilst respecting the well-being of all people and the health of the whole planet? That's the question that we asked ourselves as we were doing our economic recovery strategy. And so what we did was we partnered with a program called Thriving Cities Initiatives. And Thriving Cities really works to explore and pursue ambitious actions to meet the goal of living well and equitably, but within the means of the planet, right? All of this is really in service of taking care of our planet and the people who live on it. And so for our Thriving Cities initiatives, we hosted 3 virtual half-day working sessions, and we invited a range of our city executives and staff from across 25 departments. And at this interactive online workshop, right, we explored what it could mean for Austin to integrate the thinking of donut economics. And guys, please feel free to go and research what that means. But it supports a green and just recovery in the wake of COVID-19. And so what we did was we took a city portrait, and the city portrait really unpacked, asked us to consider how we could impact the local, the global, the ecological, and the social impacts as we develop strategies for recovery and resilience. And so that's kind of another way that we're incorporating this work, this zero waste and sustainability and circular economy work into our economic recovery strategy so that we can build more resilient communities for the future, right? Really focusing on what are the positive and negative impacts of COVID-19 on small businesses across those 4 areas that I just mentioned, right? So it's really a great tool for us to incorporate that work, that ecological work, into how we're going to build a better community for our citizens here in Austin. So I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned that this is work that's ongoing here. We're going to be, right now we're getting input from our citizens on our economic recovery framework, and of course we're going to be publishing that soon. But I love the work that I do here. Some awesome work happening in the city of Austin, and we're looking to continue to support our circular economy businesses through that work.
That is absolutely fantastic. Thank you. I think the big statement that I get out of that is the positive can-do attitude, and looking at something like having to be in the position where you have to have a recovery effort, looking at it with the cup half full of, hey, now that we have a recovery effort, here's all the things we can do.
Yes, absolutely.
So fantastic way to think about it. All right, this is the part of the show where I'm going to interview myself. So due to some technical difficulties and our third panelist not being able to join, we're in the fortunate situation where the business I work in is very similar to Kim's. So I'm gonna pretend I'm Kim for a second and ask myself some questions. All right, so Brian, I think we'll go with the recovery effort here, or the continue on the topic of COVID and can't avoid it in a situation like now. So due to COVID, how are you encouraging your staff to reduce the amount of waste created when they're working from home? So looking at this for a company like mine, the big issue that we face is now, instead of a very small amount of locations, we have about 4 facilities around the country. Now we're distributed to several hundred. So that's a logistics issue. So when we're working with consumer goods, there's a lot of things that product teams, sales teams, marketing teams deal with in moving goods and services from place to place. I need to look at a sample. I need to send a product to a retailer to view, things like that. So for us, it's really twofold. It's a reduce and reuse strategy. Reduce the amount of shipping that we're doing with samples and products, and we're leaning on technology to do that. So it's very easy to not do it until you absolutely have to, but we're looking at alternative solutions like 3D modeling and AR software to say, hey, this is what a product looks like on your shelf. Here's the size and shape relative to something you already might know. And that gives us the opportunity to cut down on our logistic waste. And then a reuse situation, incredibly easy to do, but when you look at the framework of home versus work life, being able to see both of you drink out of reusable cups, something that's that simple. So being able to have our employees use an Igloo cup when they're at home, because people are talking a lot on Zoom, getting very parched, and it's really easy to have Amazon send you a case of water bottles that you don't really need, when you can use one stainless steel reusable cup. So big picture technology issues, and also very small picture easy things that we can all do. Shifting to strategy. So something like myself in a consumer goods business. So what are the strategies we're using internally to reduce waste, both in supply chain and also in the staff's daily lives? I think the important things to do here are, one, create the initiative. And this is something that has to be bought in from the company, from an executive level down, of this is important to us, this is why, and we're doing it. Hard stop. we've got to have people in the right seats that believe in the initiatives. And if those people don't believe in the initiatives, maybe they're not the right people in the seats these days. For us, that's been a holistic view at our company, from product sales, marketing, general operations, and most significantly, supply chain. So what we've done is just say this is an impactful part of our overall business strategy. So it sits at the table with growth and how we're going to grow our business. Environmental impact sits on the same level. When we're thinking of it from that angle, then we say, okay, now that we've identified that we have to do this, strategically, how do we go attack it? Well, it becomes part of our daily business operations, and that becomes functional leaders. We need plans for every single department of how you're going to improve your impact on the planet. How are we going to measure this? And then how are we going to communicate it with the company? Every single one of our functional leaders was able to bring back phenomenal ideas to the table, big or small. Something small, we literally had EPS foam cups provided by the operator of the cafeteria inside our company, and we're going to stop that. That's a very easy thing to do, and it negates the need for an EPS foam single-use product to be in our business ever again. Very easy thing to do. Very difficult thing to do. We're making the switch to solar. We have a manufacturing plant with 2 million square feet, and it takes a lot of power. And when we can take the reliance off the grid for us, create our own power from the sun, and then actually put power back onto the grid, there's a huge improvement there for the overall community in the Houston area. And then we look at product line. So look, we're Igloo coolers. We do make a lot of durable products out of virgin plastic resins, and we want to change that. So what are some of the things we can do on the supply chain? And our product teams went out and found lots of incredible options for supply at scale. One of them joining us on the panel today. So Cheryl, thank you. But looking at the traditional hard side durable cooler that everybody thinks of when they think of an ice chest, we were able to just release this month a collection of the world's first ice chest made from PCR resin, post-consumer resin. So taking those single-use water bottles and also things like milk jugs, yogurt cups, and turning them into resins that perform exactly like virgin resins that we use today for shells, for liners, for lids of coolers. And we're able to make incredible products at scale that perform the way our consumers want them to perform for very similar prices, and didn't have to pull one drop of oil out of the earth to do it. So something to be proud of. Thank you very much. So those are examples of things that we do functionally, but how do we know they're working? Well, one, we set goals and measure our success against those goals. And then two, it's constant communication. So we do something that's called a monthly business review. Most companies do something like this, where we have all of our goals that we've set out at the beginning of the year planned out literally down to the day against the budget. And in a monthly business review, we'll look at year-over-year results. We'll look at year-to-date versus budget. And if that is something like we literally have a written goal of we want to recycle 5 million PET bottles in our soft side to make the fabric for our soft side coolers this year, and that means we've got to take a lot of the space on the shelf, take off some of the old products, replace it with new products, make them good enough that consumers want to buy them, good enough that retailers want to stock them. And then we can look month over month, how many are on the shelf this month? Did we replace the amount that it took to get to our goal of this recycling number? And know that we've got to improve, or we're exceeding our goal and we're happy about it. So the strategy, the plan, the goals, the measurement, the communication. All right, and then last on here is, hey, Brian, how do you encourage your broader Igloo community of consumers to think about sustainability? You know, as discussed here, we're just starting to do a lot of what we consider to be really great stuff. But if we care about it and consumers don't, well, it might not be a fit there. So how are we talking to our broader community? Well, one, I think we do the best job that we possibly can of getting the right message to the right consumer. When we're bringing these products out for the first time, we're putting them in retail channels where we know the consumer is excited and wants products like that. So you think about a retailer like somebody in the outdoor space, like an REI. It makes a whole lot more sense for us to introduce products at retail where the consumer is excited about that message, because you know they're going to buy it faster, they're going to talk about it, they're going to be excited about it in their communities, versus you know, there will be other retailers out there that are more concerned with price, and the market might not yet be caught up to our ability to create supply at scale and get the right price in the right place. So put the product in the place with the right consumer. A lot of times that's direct to consumer as well, where we know we can target the specific consumers with the right message. And then general communications. I mean, it's our job to be a cheerleader and get people excited about the things that we're doing. And it's fantastic to get the right message to the right consumer at the right time. It's even better to get a message to a consumer that didn't know it existed and make them excited about it. So this is where we'll do lots more kind of top of funnel marketing communication that's focused on awareness. So investing in things like events and public relations, where a consumer that might not have known there was an option to buy a recycled resin cooler sees it in a random place like rollingstone.com, because they're also talking about products like this. So 3 clicks away and they get to purchase that product, they get to use it, get excited about it, share it on social media, and their friends and family members in their community get to learn and understand about it. And then all the way down to tactical level of things like Cheryl talked about. Not one of those products goes out the door that has your fabric in it from us without having that hang tag on it. It's really easy for one cooler to look exactly like the cooler next to it, and one's made with recycled materials and the other one is not. So we want to do the best job at letting consumers know, hey, this is different, this is why, and this is why you should care.
Hey, Brian, can I add to what you just said for a quick sec?
Please do.
Yeah, so you know, one of the things that we've learned, or that we're learning, I shouldn't say we've learned, because you know it's iterative, we can always learn more. One of the things that we're learning in this process is reminding people of kind of what they already do that they might not consider zero waste or circular, right? So shopping at thrift stores is one way. I don't think people really think about that. My grandmother, when I was growing up, used to collect cans. And I don't think she would think of that as like zero waste or recycling, but like reminding people of what they're kind of already doing. Another thing is reminding ourselves and our communities of how Indigenous communities have done this already, right? Taking care of the planet is central to Indigenous communities from all over the world, particularly in the United States on Turtle Island. And mending clothes and repairing clothes and creating quilts out of old clothes is something that's been at the heart and the tradition of our Indigenous communities. And I think we could learn a lot from them and center them in this work that we're doing as well. And just, you know, letting people know, like, you're probably already doing some of this. We're just asking you to take it a step further in these ways. So I think, you know, just reminding them and just remembering to center, you know, communities who have for centuries already been doing this kind of work is a really great way to get the message out and get people more involved in this.
I love that. I think from a consumer goods standpoint, one of the things I can share is we make very durable products. We've been around for 75 years, and it is a little bit counterintuitive, but we definitely love to remind consumers to use their products they already have. You don't need to buy something new all the time. And even if you have an Igloo product that's damaged, chances are you can replace a hinge or a latch and get another 20 years worth of life out of it. So we do quite a bit of work on social media where we encourage people to show off their vintage products, which lucky for us, that's retro is back in vogue, and the product that might be in somebody's garage from the 90s is a whole lot cooler than something they might go buy today, and it reduces the need to go buy something new.
If I might jump in quickly to just continue this conversation a little bit. From where we sit, I know we are a manufacturer of yarns, which doesn't sound super sexy, but we work with brands all over the world. So we probably have in a variety of different industries too. It's not, a lot of people think of us as the apparel, like we work in apparel a lot, but we have home goods companies, accessories companies, we work with Igloo, we work with automotive folks. And what I can tell you is that one of the things you mentioned, Skyra, earlier was talking about building back, thinking in better ways. You and Brian both mentioned what you're currently doing, how we can reduce and reuse a lot of those types of efforts. What we're seeing across the board is a continued interest, I'm not going to say renewed, but a continued interest in sustainability overall, and in how, as we go back into more consumption or more reuse, how do we do that in a more sustainable way that is not going to negatively impact the planet? Because what I have seen from a consumer perspective is that people have saw a lot of benefits, like globally overall, I'm talking big picture, 50,000 foot level, right? Benefits to the environment, to the air, to we all heard the stories and saw pictures of dolphins swimming in the Venice canals last year. I mean, terrible reason why that all happened, but it really showed what could be possible. And I think that's really opened people up to thinking, if I'm going to make that decision between the pink or the blue Igloo cooler on the shelf, what might make the difference is whether or not it's made of a sustainable material. So I think what I've seen, and now I'm rambling a little bit, but what we have seen is a renewed interest and a continued interest in doing the right thing. And I think as you see younger generations and people be growing more purchasing power, all of that, I think we're going to see an acceleration of that from a business perspective. And it's really inspiring, Skyra, that you guys are doing so much in Austin to drive that entrepreneurship and push that forward. I think that's awesome.
Thank you.
Those are just some thoughts.
Cheryl, I think that gives us a perfect segue to the last question here, and we've got a few minutes before we open it up to Q&A. But we can often have blinders on and just be focused on our community and see things where we think, oh, everything's going great. But really in the big picture, we haven't made a ton of progress. So I actually shared a little bit of how we measure success at Igloo, but how are the two of you measuring success with your programs where you know definitively what we're doing is working and we can do more of this and less of the things that aren't working?
So I would say from a UNIFI perspective, what we look at is, we're a publicly traded company, so clearly we're looking at sales overall. But what we have started doing is looking at the breakout of our virgin polyester and nylon sales versus our reprieve, which is our recycled product. And we're seeing anywhere, depending on the quarter and the mix and which parts of the world are up or not, we're seeing anywhere between 1/3 to 40% of our sales are consistently now of our recycled product, reprieve. And I think we owe that a lot to the fact that we've been doing this a long time. So we do have a lot of connections, contacts with excellent mills, with excellent brands, retailers, folks across the world. But it really comes down to our quality, our service, and our ability to offer a great product. Because yeah, you can have something that's recycled, but if it's not performing well and it's not doing the job that you want it to do, then it's not worth worth any kind of trade-off. And I think, Brian, you had mentioned offering more sustainable products to consumers at a similar price. And that works. That's how we have to work from a B2B perspective. Yes, there are some differentials that we do work with because we are working from a different feedstock than a virgin product. But at the end of the day, what we need to deliver is quality and service. So we look at that. So we look at our overall percentage. A second thing that we tend to look at, and it's a softer metric, but it gets us to some really good stuff, is the number of bottle equivalents that we have sold or that we have shipped, right? So we just passed, we talked about this on Earth Day on our social media, but Reprieve has just passed the 25 billion bottle mark, which is really exciting for us. So we have kept over 25 billion bottles out of landfills and waterways. Thank you. Over the last 12 years or so, maybe more. My math skills are not so good right this second, so I apologize. But that's huge. I mean, we have diverted a significant amount of bottles, just us, and there's a whole big industry out there. Part of the reason for that is PET1, which is I use this as a prop all the time, is one of the most recyclable plastics that there is. So we're able to convert that into a variety of products, and it's used in a variety of end uses, from packaging to clothing to automotive to home goods, carpets, toys, iPhone cases. Like, if you can, it's insulation, like all kinds of things that I would never have crossed my mind that PET1 is in. It's there. So there's so much plastic out there that can be recycled. I'm excited that our company is recycling as much of it as we are, and we'd like to recycle more. And then I think last, what that takes us to is really looking at and digging deeper into our like life cycle analysis data. So not just looking at, okay, yes, by recycling those products and not having to tap any more fossil fuel out of the ground and create new virgin materials, we are saving a lot of energy. We're saving water. We're keeping greenhouse gases out of the atmosphere, and we're doing that at a significant rate. But also taking a look at how are we doing overall as a company, operating in multiple countries with multiple plants, with different, very diverse groups of employees in these different locations. How are we doing overall from an environmental and sustainability perspective? And that is something that we're taking a look at and that we're going to be tracking moving forward. So really, it comes down to people, making sure that we're taking care of our people, doing the right things by them, our planet, using less resources, finding ways to reuse product, and then the profit and that we all talk about, but really making sure our product mix continues to shift to the more sustainable product, and that's what we do.
Cheryl, I love the bottle metric. I think one thing that should be important for the audience out here is when we're communicating results, we have to do a good job as marketers of communicating them in a way that makes sense to the audience.
Yes.
Yes. So a great example, we use the bottle number as well, and we may have learned that from you. But when we just launched our PCR hard side coolers, we started the conversation with, we've been able to recycle 116,000 pounds of milk jugs and yogurt cups. Hooray! And that's not really a great frame of reference.
It's not tangible. You can't get your head around it, right? So I'm sorry I interrupted you, but I get excited.
Well, no, it's perfect because light bulb came on, and then we started communicating, oh, this is 10 football fields worth of plastic that's not going into landfills. And okay, now I get it. I like that, and do more of that. Skyra, do you have a really quick answer, or do you want to get right to Q&A?
Just two things I want to mention really quickly, less than a minute, I promise. Our zero waste master plan calls for the city to move to our diversion rate to 75% by last year. Clearly, we're updating that. We don't know if we've hit it, but that's the goal that we were looking for. And then to 90% diversion by 2030. So that's kind of how we're measuring, right? That's why our universal recycling ordinance is in place. We are measuring how much material we're recapturing that's not ending up in the landfill. And then the second side of that, from the economic development standpoint, right, is we want to make sure that we're providing ecosystem support to our businesses, right? So how are we closing the gaps in those ecosystems? What do our circular economy businesses need that doesn't exist? How do we help create more end markets, not only for recycled material, but for what our circular businesses need to continue to expand, to create more livable wage jobs, to provide more investment into our city. So that's kind of how we're measuring it, right? Investment, jobs, expansion, and then of course our zero waste goal based on our master plan.
All right, thank you so much. So while we've been going through the webinar here, Jacqueline's been collecting some questions in the chat for Q&A. There she is, back with us. You want to fire away with some hot questions for the group here?
Sure thing. We have gotten a number of questions, so I'll do my best to address as many as I can. We don't have a lot of time, so I'll jump right in. Cheryl, one came in: how do you address any concerns about the safety of recycled products, especially plastics, in items such as clothing? Any potential for leaching, etc. is the question.
So we do a lot of testing on our products, and we only use PET1, which does not contain a lot of the concerning like BPA and products that people tend to get nervous about when they're talking about plastics. All of our yarns, and I think our resins as well, are tested for OEKO-TEX 100, which is a certification body that makes sure that they're looking for specific chemicals, they're looking for safety. And what I usually say is that they're safe enough to put into children's clothing and infants' clothing. So it means that the product is safe enough to put next to a baby's skin. There's nothing in it that's going to cause a reaction or anything like that. Our process is 100% mechanical. So what we do is we chop these up, and we use pretty much water to blast all of the impurities off of them. And then we use a lot of filtration, and we do have to heat the plastic back up into very, very high temperatures in order to create the resins, and then again to extrude it. So it is a very safe product. It's been used for a long time, and we actually also have an FDA letter of, I don't remember exactly what it's called, I apologize. It's like a whatever. It's not approved, but it's like there's no problem with our products. They're food grade, so you can use them in food packaging, and some companies do. So very safe, very transparent, very easy to check on that.
Thank you for that. I know, Skyra, you were talking a bit about an integrated approach to economic recovery, which was great. And a question came in asking, how do we resolve the goal of achieving economic growth with the goal of reducing consumption? And as part of that, for all of you, is what strategies can influence people to desire less? And then how do you balance that with the goal, the objective to achieve economic growth?
That is a great multi-part question, Jacqueline. Yes. I'm gonna try to answer as many parts and then kick it to my other panelists. But that is kind of why our circular economy program specifically exists within the city of Austin. That's why we use that framework for our economic development purposes, right? So part of it is recognizing, right, if we want to reduce consumption, it's twofold. First, we have programs that are for our citizens. So there's fix-it clinics where you can bring things to be repaired so that you're not throwing them away. We have our Move Out ATX where we partner with the local university so that as college students are moving out, those things that they would typically throw away from their dorms are going to our reuse organizations and our thrift stores to resell. So there's that side of it. But then from a business standpoint, right, it's the curbside collection. How are we using our materials to support our businesses here locally, right? So how are we getting our citizens to understand the importance of reducing their consumption, but how are we getting them to support our circular economy businesses that are not extracting raw materials from our planet, but are reusing things that are already in circulation as well? So it's finding the right balance of making sure that, you know, you're protecting the people and planet, but that people are able to thrive within your community as well. So how do you do both at the same time? It's very fine line, very fine balance, but we work really well with our circular economy businesses and our local public servants to make sure that we're striking the right balance. And when we're not, that we course correct and we iterate and we try something different.
Thank you. Brian, you want to jump in?
Sure, I think I have a quick answer for that. On the corporate side, it's really do your best. We do what we think is right with all of our communities and invest where we think we should to tell the right messages. I think there's also very much a social answer for that, and I think that you get down to a personal level, and this is micro communities of your closest friends and your family, and what lessons are parents teaching children, what lessons are friends teaching each other, and on the individual level, it comes down to a decision of, does this matter to me or not? And lots of outside forces can try their best to put the right messages in front of the individual, but the individual's got to make the decision for themselves. I'm a very optimistic person, and I do see younger people making greener decisions in a macro sense, so that certainly gives me hope.
Cheryl, anything you'd like to add? Thank you, Brian.
I think that I agree with a lot of what you all are saying. I'm loving this back and forth and conversation we're all having. I know from a UNIFI perspective, yeah, I think I talked a lot about what we're trying to do and how we're trying to measure that. But when I guess when I think about the future and we're talking about what can we do to continue to drive people to reduce and reuse, we're looking at ways to add to our recycled kind of componentry, if you will, or like what we're trying to do. So we're always looking at technologies to take products that might go into landfill or are done out of use, are not, that Goodwill can't sell, that people have that probably shouldn't go to Goodwill, not sure, but I'm speaking hypothetically as well. And how do we take that back and put those textiles or those items or those things that are made with polyester or nylon or what have you, and turn those back into yarns that can be used or resins. So I'm talking mostly about a textile take back program. We do some of it now with folks who cut and sew products that are made from Reprieve, but there are innovations out there. There are companies out there who are investing in technologies that will be able to take we call it multi-fiber fabrics that are very hard to recycle right now, and figure out ways to pull them back in so that we can use that as feedstock for new products that would be hopefully very durable, very long lasting, and that consumers would buy and be interested in. I think there's a huge future in finding those circular economies, and industry and businesses have to be a part of that and drive that.
That was great. And Cheryl, thank you. That actually touches on the next question. Actually, you answered most of it for yourself, so maybe this time it's for Brian. The question was exactly that. Are you operating any take-back programs to facilitate the capture of feedstock for future products? So it seems you're already doing that, which is great, and would really welcome more information from you and to have Skyra and Brian jump in as well.
Yes, we do that. Contact us for information. We can work with you to try to take back products, but I'll let my colleagues speak now.
Perfect.
And I did not see that question in advance, by the way.
That's coming in. These are not planted.
No, I don't think we have any take back programs, Jacqueline, but as I mentioned earlier, I mean, we have our Move Out ATX program where we work with the universities, and then our Fix It clinics where we have experts in repair come and teach our citizens how to repair items that are at home. So electronics, clothing, furniture, all those things is kind of our way of supporting that.
And I would add, we actually do not currently, but we have spent the last year working on research projects of how to recycle existing coolers, where just like Cheryl mentioned, when you're recycling products, it's very difficult in the feedstock and that supply chain to get resins that have screws or glue or insulation in them, and decouple all of those products from each other till you get the right product that you can actually go recycle. So we've been working with actually with KAB and a plastics recycling manufacturer to be able to figure out what we can actually make if we just recycle an entire cooler as is. So good things to come in the future with what we do currently, education around how to extend the life of a product. So letting consumers know what they can do to how they can replace a hinge, a latch, wheels, a handle, things like that, with education online, and then very accessible replacement parts.
That's great. Thank you. We are at time, so I'm going to close this out. As we close the conversation today, I would like to first thank everyone for joining, and would really like to thank Brian and all of our panelists for taking time out of your busy schedules to join this vital conversation. And I know it's not easy to carve out time to do these, so thank you. Achieving zero waste and creating a circular economy is, and really a more sustainable future, can be advanced when we all take action in our various roles as individuals and join our neighbors to deliver change. Keep America Beautiful at its core is about helping people find common purpose and inspiring them to take action to clean, green, and beautify their communities. As part of our work, the 23rd annual Keep America Beautiful Great American Cleanup has begun, and it extends throughout June. In addition, Keep America Beautiful programs and educational initiatives will take place throughout the year. You can find these and many other opportunities to take action in your community by visiting us at kab.org. That's kab.org. There you will also see that our volunteer portal can help connect you with your local Keep America Beautiful affiliate. Please take a moment now to explore the Keep America Beautiful website and discover how simple and fun it is to be part of creating change. Thank you again. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.